Oh, today we're joined by Caroline Tudor, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a unique background in storytelling and human behavior. Caroline spent 9 years working as an actor in film and television, and her background in storytelling and character study deeply informs her clinical work. She now helps individuals and couples understand their patterns, deepen connections, and build more honest, fulfilling relationships and lives. Thank you so much for joining me today, Caroline. I'm so glad you could be here.
Thank you, Tegan. Thanks for having me. I'm
Oh,
excited.
I am so excited for this chat. So, as mentioned in your bio, you were an actress and a model, and now you're a therapist. But can I ask you a little bit? We're just saying you're still in LA. Can I ask you a little bit about your journey to acting and modeling? Was that something you kind of fell into, or is that something that you actively worked towards? You wanted to get into the arts?
Well, as a young child, I wanted to, and then I stopped, and then I fell into it. So kind of both. I like as a kid was doing theater and musicals and loved it. And then I transitioned more into music in my like teen years. And then when I was about 15, I got scouted to be a model. I wasn't trying to do it. Someone came out to me and asked if I wanted to, and my parents were cool with it. And so I started modeling when I was like 15. And then that brought me back into acting because my modeling agency also had a talent agency. And they asked if I was interested in doing it. And I was like, well, yeah, I used to love to do it. Why not start up again? And that's how I kind of got back into it in my like later teen years. And then I went to college for theater. I went to USC in LA for theater and I got signed with an agent out in LA. And that's kind of how I started my professional acting career was after college.
That's so cool. As I was saying to you earlier before recording, I'm a big fan of one of your movies.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, of course, you're actually a very good actor. Um,
Thank you.
can I ask how along that journey that you decided that I don't want to put words in your mouth and say that it wasn't for you, but that you wanted to expand or you wanted to try something different and you went into a field like therapy.
Yeah, well, as I'm sure you understand, and I'm sure everyone understands, acting is a grind. It is a really hard life. Even if you're working a lot, it's very uncertain. You don't know when your next job is going to come. Once something wraps, it's just silent until the next opportunity comes. And you might be auditioning a lot, but even if you're auditioning a lot, you might not be getting the jobs. So it just became hard on my psyche. I started going to my own personal therapy during that time because I was so anxious about the future of acting and what that was going to look like. Am I going to make it? Am I going to have the type of career that I want to have? When am I going to be able to make money? All of the kind of hard parts about being an artist and trying to have a career as an artist. And I fell in love with the process of therapy during my own personal therapy journey. And I learned so much about myself. And it gave me so many tools to just like be my best self and kind of take control of my life in a way that I didn't know how to before. And then right before COVID happened, I was getting, I think, restless in Hollywood. I was getting a little annoyed with some of the elements of the job that were more the business side, feeling like I had to kind of be who other people wanted me to be or change myself to be a certain casting type or whatever the case was. Always getting feedback about why I wasn't right for something or what I was doing wrong. And so I was getting kind of fed up with that side of the job. It didn't feel like it was just acting anymore. It felt like, okay, now I felt like I was kind of objectifying myself in order to fit a mold in a way. Um, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to grad school. It doesn't mean I have to end acting. The plan was never to quit acting. Like I never made that decision. Oh, I'm going to stop acting now. I just wanted to expand my horizons, my opportunities. So I went back to grad school for psychology and I got my master's and then started the whole process of getting licensed, which takes a few years. You have to get a lot of hours and then you sit for the licensing exam. And that whole process was probably like 4 years in total. Also, COVID happened, so there was no acting jobs really going on, and I was so happy that I was in school and had something to be focusing on and working towards. Um, and yeah, since then, like I'm still not officially like I won't ever act again. I just haven't put any energy towards it recently. I've been feeling so happy and full and excited in my therapy career. It hasn't been calling to me, but that doesn't mean it won't at some point. So I'm leaving the door open for it.
I love that. That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Don't burn the bridge, keep it open. And
Yeah.
that's no, that's so cool. And actually like that leads me into what I wanted to ask you about balancing both actually, because I can't imagine, as you've said, how stressful that must be to just be living paycheck to paycheck like that. And no matter how successful you may be after a project, like just the stress of that has to be tremendous. So, is having a plan B, if somebody goes out to New York or LA to try and pursue that career, is having a plan B really essential, or can there be cons to having a plan B? I mean, how do most people kind of work that stuff out in your experience?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I always was told, like at the beginning of my career, don't have a plan B because then you're going to quit.
Right,
And kind of true, but
right.
not in the way. I think it just depends on what you want. Like, if your only goal is to make it, whatever that looks like, then maybe having a plan B isn't the best idea because it is really hard and it's not the healthiest necessarily. And it depends on what your values are and what you're prioritizing. I started prioritizing my mental health. I started prioritizing what made me feel happy and fulfilled as opposed to this idea of what I wanted my future to be. And that's part of growing up too. Like that's part of maturing. That's part of finding yourself is like understanding that what you thought your life was going to look like isn't always going to be the case. And another path might present itself that's going to lead you to something that is so much more fulfilling to you than that other thing might have ever been. So I think that's also another element of like being psychologically healthy is being open to possibilities, being flexible with things, not being too rigid, not being chaotic, but like flexible and differentiated in the middle where like you can be open to other possibilities. So I don't like that advice, don't have a plan B because I just don't think it's healthy. I think that it's limiting. Um and also I know a lot of people who have grinded it out for years and years and years and never made another option, never created a different plan, and now they're working. But as you probably know, it's a really hard time in Hollywood right now. So it's like a very small amount of people who are living comfortably in the film and television world. A lot of artists, whether writers, directors, actors, have had to find different paths and that's just like an unfortunate reality of what's going on in the industry. So my personal thought on that is do whatever makes you happy and feel good in your life. Like we only have one life to live. Don't be so rigid that you're stuck on this idea of what you wanted your life to look like because it might not be what's right for you.
I love that. I love that so much. And actually, it kind of answers what I was going to ask you next. If you have advice for people in that position, or um, people sort of at the end of the acting career, people, how could I say this? New therapists. Um, do you have any advice for new therapists or people sort of making that really big change, that you found helpful, that you wish maybe somebody had told you at the beginning that might save some time or stress? Is there any tips of advice that you might have about that?
Yes, definitely. I got my license this past July, which was maybe like 6 months ago. And something that
Congratulations.
I'm learning in the therapy world is you can either have clients quickly and take health insurance, or you can go the private pay route, but it takes a while to build up your caseload. And the positives of the private pay route is that you can set your own rate. With health insurance, you cannot charge more than what the health insurance companies are going to pay you. And that's different for different health insurance companies. But I think that something that I wish someone had told me was if you want to build a private practice and do the private pay thing, get your hours as an associate with someone who's in a private practice so that you can bring those clients with you once you start your own practice, if that's the route you want to go. There are different routes to go as a therapist. You don't have to start your own private practice. You can work at someone else's practice. You can work for an agency. You can work for the government. Like you can work at a school. There's all these different things. But if money and flexibility is a priority for you, which it was for me, then have that thought in your mind as like a larger goal and start building a caseload that you can transfer over with you. When I was getting my hours, I was working a lot. It was a lot of insurance, Medi-Cal specifically, which is like the state insurance. And I loved all my clients and wished so badly that they were able to come with me into my private practice, but they can't afford it. And that's also like one of the difficult realities of the healthcare system, especially in America. I don't know what's going on in Canada, but in
Similar.
America, it's hard. It's hard to afford mental health.
Yeah.
And
Similar here.
I wish it was more accessible for people. And I also wish that the clinicians got paid more by the insurance companies because we're capped out. And so then it becomes trying to find clients who value the work enough to pay you your full pay rate. There's a whole kind of like business element to it that is hard to learn.
Sure.
But yeah, I think another tip I would have is like get clear early about your specialties and like the types of things you want to have a niche in. Because like acting, like the more specific you can be about what you offer, the more clear it is to people and the more they'll want to invest in that specific thing. So that's something I want
Interesting.
to do. Hmm.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, both acting and therapy they're similar in so many ways. I think that's one of the reasons I transitioned into it. One of my favorite things about acting was always like the character analysis, like breaking down your character, getting deep into their head, creating a whole backstory of what their childhood was and what they've been through and what led them to who they are today. Like making up those specific things was always really exciting to me. And then I recognized, like, oh, that's exactly what therapy is. It's like analyzing a person, breaking down why they're doing what they're doing, where these different tendencies are coming from, why they have these protective mechanisms up in place, what could have happened to lead them to who they are today. And I went from kind of like inhabiting that in the acting world to supporting it and helping it without having to like actually become it. Which is, and it feels good to help. It feels good to feel important
Yeah.
in a way too. So that's another kind of parallel between therapy and acting, as well as that kind of specificity of who you are and like what you can offer as a therapist, as well as an actor.
That is so fascinating. That's so interesting. I know perfectionism is a specialty of yours. If I could say it like that, perfectionism in the arts. So I know perfectionism is not limited to the arts,
Of
but
course.
can I ask you if that is a specific, like, is that something that artists that an issue like that might be unique to them that they have to look at? Is that something that you came across in Hollywood in order to study that, or I'm not sure if I'm making myself
Yeah,
make
no, of course.
sense of that, but
I totally no, it makes sense. I think that the way I came to be interested in that was through my husband who works with pro athletes. He
okay.
works in the pro athlete world, specifically like NBA and NFL players. And he was telling me about how these athletes are just stuck in this place of like having to perform and having to be perfect at all costs and the mental toll that it takes and the kind of like mental element of the sports that they have to be able to tap into. And so I got interested in it through that, but also it pertains to the arts in its own way. In art, there is a beauty in the imperfection and in the humanity. And I think I mean, I can only really speak to acting because that's my particular background, but like if you get stuck on perfect, you're kind of missing the humanity of it. And that is an element of acting that I think is kind of anti-perfectionist, but people do get caught in the idea of I have to look a certain way, I have to be portrayed a certain way, I have to be booking all these things, I have to be making a certain amount of money, I have to be with the best representative, I have to be hanging out with this crew of people, like always look trying to level up. The goalpost is always moving. Like when is it going to be enough? And that's kind of similar to the kind of perfectionistic mindset, I think. And that's a human question too. Like, when is it going
Yes.
to be enough?
Yes.
If when am I going to the arrival fallacy? Like, when am I going to arrive at happiness?
Hmm.
And the answer is never. Like
Hmm.
you think you're going to achieve this one thing and that's going to make you happy. Then you're going to achieve the next thing and that's going to make you happy. But if you can't learn to appreciate what you've built and appreciate what you have, no arrival is ever going to fulfill that. And another element too is like you are separate from your career. Your career does not make you a human being. The perfection of your career or how much money you make or whatever is not your value as a human. So like trying to separate yourself from that is like a lot of the work. And that can take a long time and be really hard to do, especially if you were raised with the notion that your success is what's important. And that's a hard thing to divorce yourself from.
Yeah, that's one that I have very much struggled with. That's a huge one. That's absolutely fascinating. Um, can is it something that really can be worked on, or is it cut?
Absolutely.
Good, wonderful,
Absolutely. It takes,
wonderful.
I mean, of course, like I always say to my clients, showing up to therapy is not enough. Like the hour of therapy a week is just the classroom. The
Mhm.
work happens outside of the classroom where you're taking what you're learning in therapy and applying it to your life. And that is hard. Like therapy is really hard work and I it's doesn't always feel good. It's not always lovely. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's invigorating. Sometimes it feels so good to just be able to talk to someone and get stuff off your chest. But like if you're doing real work on yourself, it can be very painful. So if you're willing to do that work, it is absolutely possible to slowly but surely disconnect from the idea that your worth is in what you achieve, what you earn, what your status is. Um, but that can take a while and a lot of work, but it's absolutely possible. Healing is possible in all aspects.
Thank you. Thanks for the
Yeah.
hope for that.
Yeah.
I think people can lose hope sometimes that it can and it will get better.
Mm.
And that actually leads me perfectly to the topic of codependency, actually. So I know you help people with that as well. And the separating yourself from your career sounds like an element of that, actually. How can we talk briefly about what codependency is and how people struggle with that?
Yes, codependency is so much more A, nuanced, and B, I mean, I would say most people struggle with an element of codependency. Usually people think of codependency as you're dependent on someone.
Mhm,
That's not what it is. I think
mhm.
that it's kind of used a lot in the pop culture terminology. But what it really is kind of hoping that you can manipulate someone else with your actions. And it shows up a lot in relationships with addicts, but that's not the only place that it happens.
Right?
Um, a lot of times it comes from childhood and having a relationship with your caregivers that feels scary or chaotic or uncertain. So children learn, oh, if I'm just a good girl or a good boy, or if I do what mommy or daddy says, or if I make straight A's in school, or if I do XYZ, then they're going to love me more. Or then they're going to stop drinking, or then they're going to start being mean to me, or they're going to stop abusing someone else. So it's very much about trying to control other people, but like subtly. And the reason this shows up a lot in addiction is because people will think if I kick them out onto the street, then they're going to die. Maybe. And if you support their addiction by letting them stay, they're also definitely going to die. So it can be as intense as that, but it can also be as subtle as, oh, if I invite this person to my party, then they'll invite me to their party. And the antidote to that is really understanding what's best for you
Mhm.
and putting what's best for you. And this is going to sound selfish, but it's not meant to be selfish because having interdependent as opposed to codependent relationships are healthy relationships where both people are getting their needs met. So it's up to each individual to decide what's best for them and to not put their needs after someone else's needs, which then leads to resentment. That's the key. Like if you're feeling resentful of someone else because you're doing something for them that they didn't even ask you to do, that's a good indication that there's codependency happening.
And I suppose if you recognize those things in yourself and say, hey, I want to do something about that, those things can also be addressed. Is that fair to say? I would think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And as I said, like everything can be addressed.
Right.
You might
Right.
feel like, oh, I've been a certain way my entire life. This is what it is.
Right.
There's this concept that has been proven of
Yeah.
neuroplasticity where like your brain can change throughout your entire adult life. Like even at the sometimes, older people will be like, "Oh, it's too late for me to change. I've been doing this my whole life. I'm 70 years old. Why would I change now?" You can still change and heal and evolve and your brain can still change. So it's never too late. You can change any aspect of your psychological wellness that you want to. It takes work, it takes
Hmm.
repetition, it
Hmm.
takes trust, it takes support. And that's where therapy comes in. Like sometimes I would say it's not impossible to do these things on your own. Like certainly you can read about them and implement what you're learning from reading and what you're learning online and stuff, but the true magic of therapy is the relationship and like the healing nature of the relationship and the corrective relationship. Because then you learn, oh, this is the healthy way to be in a relationship with someone. Now I'm going to go out into the world and be this version of myself.
So that relationship is super duper important. Do you have any advice for people who are not therapists in the slightest about how to find somebody? Because I know therapists are people, there's all different types, about how to find somebody that they are comfortable with.
Yes. Oh God, what a question. And
Yeah.
this is such a this is such a thing. There's so many different therapy
Yeah.
directories out there. One of the big ones is Psychology Today. I know most therapists of friends of mine are on Psychology Today. Most people are finding their therapist online, Googling, ChatGPT. So I would say look on therapist directories like Psychology Today. There's also one called Therapy Den. Some people go to ZocDoc. Um, there's a bunch of different ones. You can even like Google like therapy directories. Um, so that's a way to find people. I would say it's kind of like dating. Like you could, and most therapists will offer a free consultation call. So I would say do the consultation call, see how it feels. Do you feel comfortable with them? Do you feel like you want to learn more from them? Do you feel like you want to see where this relationship goes? And then get on the schedule. And I would say give it a few months before completely ruling someone out.
Okay.
Like dating, it can take a little while to like build trust and get comfortable.
Hmm.
That's not to say ignore gut feelings. Like if you have
Hmm.
your first session with someone and you're like hard no, then great, move
Hmm.
on. Tell them
Hmm.
I don't think it's a fit and I'm going to look for someone else.
Hmm.
But if you're uncertain, give it some time because relationships can like blossom and grow. And I think look for a therapist that says that they work with what you're looking to work on, whether that's like couples counseling and relationship stuff, or you're struggling with substance issues and addiction, or like body dysmorphia or anxiety or depression, all these different things. There are different therapists out there that know a lot about those things. So find someone who says that that's what their specialty is and that's what they really focus on.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was so informative and helpful.
Yeah.
I, you know, as we're just wrapping up here, I guess I'll ask you, Caroline, about your plans this year with therapy, or what are your future plans with your practice? I mean, are you going to stay with the niches that you're with? Are you expanding? Like, what do you think it looks like for you over the next year or even beyond?
Yeah, I mean, you're always expanding as a human being, I would hope. So,
Hmm.
yes, right now I'm focused on what I know best and I'm building my private practice right now. It's called Pacific Depth Therapy.
Excellent.
Um, Taking new clients. You have to be in California, unfortunately, is how it works because that's where my license is. So I can only work
Okay.
with California residents. Um, but yeah, doing that and of course, like always expanding. And as I expand and learn, I will also put that on my website and all my information. And I would love for people to follow along and reach out if they're interested. Um, Therapy is life-changing and invigorating and makes you feel in control of your life in a way that you may not have ever felt before. So
Agreed.
even if you're not in California and you're on the fence about trying therapy, I can't recommend anything more than therapy. It's magical.
Thank you. And thank you for the element as well that it has to be a good relationship. I love how you compared it to dating. That's so good. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
Actually, you just mentioned it, Caroline, but where can people follow you? Where do you put your work out?
So my website is www.pacificdepththerapy.com.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram at Pacific Depth Therapy. You can find me on Psychology Today. Caroline Tudor is my name. You could probably search Pacific Depth Therapy on Psychology Today, but Caroline Tudor is what you would search for on Psychology Today. And you can Google me and you can reach out via my website, um, on my Instagram. I would love to talk to anyone who wants to reach out and learn more.
Perfect. I'll send them your way.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for talking with me today, for all you shared. You gave some incredible advice, Caroline. It was so good to talk to you. And I wish you, well with your practice. And I hope to see you in a movie someday down the
Thank
road. That would
you.
be
I might be
great.
back. Who knows?
Who
Who knows
knows?
what
That
the
would be
world brings?
that's right. And like you said, why not keep it open? Just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was so good to talk to you. This was an amazing conversation. Thank
Thank
you. Thank
you.
you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.